the red side here, as we said, FPX have the ability to react.
Yeah, and I think in the first game that these two teams played against each other, Splyce showed how well they can play around bottom lane, and actually I think it was the fact that Kobbe wasn't on an AD carry that contributed to Splyce not being able to win that game off of the kills they were able to create bottom.
And part of that was because of how well FPX read Splyce's draft. If you look at their previous draft, they did things like banning out Xerxe, banning out the Nautilus for Norskeren, banning away the Xayah from Kobbe. This time around second rotation, immediately, those are champions that you very much associate with Xayah and Norskeren. FPX have done their homework, and they are denying all of the power comfort tools that Splyce want to find.
But Xayah has a little bit of comfort still left in his back pocket. The Cho'Gath top lane is something we have seen him already play at Worlds 2019. Rakan is locked in for the Lovers duo bot, and there's the Kaisa you were talking about, Jatt.
Yeah, I think if it wasn't taken right now by FPX, then it would have been banned phase 2 by Splyce, but even though we don't see other teams picking the Cho'Gath, this isn't that surprising for Splyce to do it in this situation.
And now I expect FPX to start putting the squeeze on Xerxe. You can already see that they're going to get first pick out of red side. They can probably grab a jungle, so they're effectively going to take away 3 pivotal jungle picks. I didn't expect the Nocturne. I do expect a Gragas. Xerxe then still has his Karthus and his Olaf left available to him.
Gragas has already been removed by FPX. Splyce here looking to see where they want to put their bans. Could try and hamper Doinb just a little bit. Rumble is the pick for them, and we'll see if FPX once again go towards those jungle bans you were talking about first.
There's also the emphasis on trying to take away AD junglers if they want to pinch there, simply because it is an AP-oriented top laner if Xerxe is going to play around Xayah and mix the damage profile up there. But there's the Olaf. I think it's so important that Tian gets the stronger jungle matchup against Splyce, because you know Xerxe is the X factor for this team that can unlock the map, so you want to make sure that you can keep him down if you're FPX.
So what's the jungle power pick they have left? Because I'm expecting FPX to throw it in here, and it's Lee Sin. I was just trying to go through all of the tier list of junglers. Like, surely they have something ready the first pick, then they can last pick the counter pick for Doinb.
Which means that Xerxe could go towards something like the Rek'Sai. She would certainly fit, and again, trying to find A, an answer into a Lee Sin, and B, offer him a lot of that speed and that control through the jungle. But he also has things like the Jarvan if they want to go more teamfight centric.
Well, the Rek'Sai is going to be locked in alongside Humanoid's Akali in the mid lane. Now FPX have their final pick. It's a counter pick for mid, we expect. But of course, Doinb could take the Gangplank into the mid lane.
He could take whatever he wants into the mid lane at this point. As you mentioned, there were actually already 2 champions that it could be, but in this case, we're pretty sure it would be the Galio going mid.
Could be Nautilus.
It definitely could be. He was a big Nautilus mid player throughout the summer split. He actually played it 6 times, but it has been slightly nerfed since then, and the recent power buffs to Galio make it so he can get decent shove against the Akali and then roam bottom, which is what FPX want to do.
Yeah, absolutely, Jatt. And on top of that, it's also just really difficult for the Akali to A, have kill pressure on Galio, and the Shroud doesn't mean as much because of the taunt. So yeah, you don't have the possibility to flash taunt anymore on the Galio, but you can still be super obnoxious, walk into the middle of that Shroud, and make sure that you find her.
No kill pressure for Humanoid in the mid lane. Xerxe on a jungler who can have a lot of impact early game. We'll see if once again they decide to play around the bottom lane like they did the last time these 2 teams met. FPX have a lot of teamfight tools, have a lot of AoE, and have Tian on an strong early game jungler.
Yeah, and we're also going to get to see if FPX is really in gear like a lot of us expected them here, because they have another draft that really does suit their style.
FPX and Splyce fighting for their qualification to the quarterfinals. The crowd here in the Verti Music Hall in Berlin showing their support for Splyce. If Splyce win this, they guarantee themselves at least a tiebreaker in the qualification for quarterfinals. FPX would guarantee themselves a spot in the quarterfinals, although not guaranteed that first position.
Yeah, and we need to see if anything happens at level 1, because we saw Splyce's win over J-Team earlier today, where actually Vizicsacsi managed to hand Xerxe first blood on a silver platter. From the looks of it, it is very defensive from both teams. It's not like the teams wouldn't have tools to go in. FPX could have done a Nautilus invade, and Splyce could have tried to do something with Cho'Gath, who has a very powerful level 1.
And checking kind of what we expect the initial jungle rotations for these guys to be, you already talked about this in Draft Medic, that Tian on this Lee Sin, the early game jungler, is the acting bridge for what is very clearly a team fight composition from FPX. They want to be in that 5v5, so all eyes are on him and what lanes he can attack. Now that said, he does have great setup in both his bot and his mid lane, and there's that delayed invade you were alluding to, Jatt.
It looks like FPX might be going to try and steal away this red buff. 4 members strong, Splyce, unaware that it's happening. Question mark pings do come out.
Oh, he's unburrowed as well.
He's already unburrowed.
Oh, Doinb has the cutoff too.
Doinb has the cutoff. Xerxe still has his flash. Doinb looking for the taunt, won't land it, but Xerxe has had to burn that flash early on.
And that was a very big chant as they get the hook onto Norskeren. Persistent crowd we have.
Yes.
That was one of the longest chants that I've seen. I mean, in the LPL, they have chant leaders.
This is super dangerous for Humanoid. He's just being flashed on by Doinb. Tian going in as well, but the flash away from Humanoid.
Yeah, that's just going to be very greedy by Humanoid, trying to see if he can get that wave shoved in. Didn't respect the fact that he had eyes on Tian, walking into that jungle, rocking up into his lane with the red buff. And that's now 2 flashes gone, and Xerxe and Humanoid right out the gate.
I wonder, though, because it is mid lane burning flash, and technically Galio would be a little bit vulnerable. He's so tanky early, it's probably okay, but I think that just kind of goes to show the type of player that Doinb is, that he's willing to trade flashes that early.
And you can see kind of the impact of this initial invade across the map, particularly in that bot lane. Without red, there's not a lot of reason for Xerxe to be down there. He was chased and forced up into the top side of his jungle, which means that Lwx and Chris now get to go fully on the aggressive, getting these health advantages over Kobbe and Norskeren.
And they were having this discussion on the analyst desk saying they think the key matchup is Tian versus Xerxe. Xerxe has been one of the key carries for Splyce throughout the course of the split and throughout the course of this tournament, and he's been set behind early on here by FunPlus Phoenix.
Yeah, and you can see that FPX had the same idea as all of us did in terms of getting that to happen. I think a bigger thing is actually whether or not FPX can protect their lanes, because they actually have had their either top lane or bot lane crash fairly often so far this tournament.
I'm actually really curious what happened there with Xerxe canceling his back. Now, he does go back. He should be heading towards his Krug camp. And why I think this is important is because of the timing, not only on taking the Krugs, but on possibly finding a gank bot lane. Lwx and Crisp are both pushed very far forward. FPX should expect the Krug camp is what he's going to go for.
They're going to collide here. How many cooldowns is Tian going to use? He's actually used his Q and W already.
Xerxe's trying to get in there. Norskeren and Kobbe on the way as well. Tian does still have his flash. Xerxe's going to land the unbow. Here comes Kobbe as well. And Tian rooted up with the blade call, and Norskeren standing off towards the other side of this.
Ooh.
Chris flashing forward. Jumping by Norskeren. Heals up his AD carry for the moment. The Ignite is ticking. But FPX will just be able to escort their jungler out.
Quite a strange interaction there where Tian really knew he had a lot of backup coming, but since he was down, cooldowns needed to be very patient. The most surprising thing to me was actually the fact that Crisp flashed and ignited when it felt mainly like he was there for defense.
Yeah, a little bit of a misread it feels like there, but now in the mid lane.
Galio.
Gonna try and jump away, but the Justice Pump is blocked. Doinb still lands the taunt. Xerxe could look to try and catch out of the
He's just going to walk it out.
Yeah, just walks away. Xerxe, no flash on Humanoid, no way to chase that Galio.
Oh, Galio. Aftershock, waits that out, then gets the damage reduction from his taunt. So is really just reducing any potential burst from both Splyce people and just walks slowly towards his jungle. Really well played.
But look at the confidence. Doinb then immediately just teleports back into the mid lane. Xerxe could actually just walk around and look for another repeat gank here.
Gimgoon's going to teleport up towards top. This wave is pushing in towards Chachi, who's yet to have a chance to go back. Tian perhaps could look for a gank. He's going to spot out Xerxe, who is on his wolves, and just trying to steal away as much of this jungle as possible early on.
Yeah, and just track Xerxe as much as possible. Tian has been in his face, in his jungle, clashing on Krug camp, now stealing away Grom. And again, if you control Xerxe, you control Splyce. He is completely taking all of the teeth out of their early game.
Chachi's looking to back.
Doinb's also rotating.
Yeah, they would like to try and 3-man dive here, and the level 3 Rek'Sai wouldn't be able to put too much of a hamper on it. It's probably enough to pull them off the dive, though.
And Xerxe in the right place just to make FunPlus Phoenix doubt themselves on that top lane dive.
Yeah, I think overall, even though FPX is trying to apply a lot of pressure, yes, the Rek'Sai is behind, but the bottom lane for Splyce is doing just fine. The fact that Crisp used his Flash and Ignite during one of Tian's jungle invades has allowed Kobbe and Norskeren to kind of shove in this bottom lane. And if you're Splyce and you say, all right, 6 minutes into the game, Kobbe is going to have the highest farm on our team, you're probably taking that.
Kind of feels like Splyce have at least weathered the storm of losing a lot of those flashes. Now, the guy that can throw a wrench into that is, of course, Doinb there. You can see that even pre-level 6, he's already trying to see if he can cheat down there, get some sort of roam off. Obviously, that's going to unlock and get even worse as soon as he does have access to the Galio ultimate. And that's kind of the staple play from FunPlus Phoenix. They love to unlock their mid laner and then have his impact felt all across the map.
Especially when you have the Gangplank who can interact with the Cannon Barrage as well.
Chachi?
Now, Chachi is looking for the kill here. Cannon Barrage comes down from Gimgoon. He's going to eat some oranges, and he's K to walk out of that one, but Chachi was very close to bursting out the Gangplank.
Yeah, Cho'Gath does have very strong dueling at level 6. That was maybe one auto attack away, but Gimgoon, a very experienced Gangplank, timed his oranges as best as he could to end up just trading ultimates with the Cho'Gath.
Start to see Norskeren roaming away from his bottom lane. That wave is just in the middle of the lane, so he's not going to lose too much from this. But Xerxe still only level 4, is getting up towards that level 5, has been set behind, and because of that, Tian is able just to take away this this Ocean Dragon without Splyce really being able to react.
Yeah, one of the nice things about Lee Sin is his ability to do dragons pretty much solo as soon as he's level 5. So they've been up in Xerxe's face. They had the timer on the red buff, and it was a pretty easy plan play for FPX to force the dragon when you knew that Xerxe was going to be dealing with his buff.
You can see the difference between the two junglers, about 17 to 20 farm, depending on who has done their most recent camp. Crisp now roaming around. VODS was talking about how powerful this support can be for FPX. Well, we already see him trying to team up with Doinb and Tian in this mid lane.
And we're just kind of waiting now for FPX to try and make their first strike. Galio can basically try to get the roam to top or bottom lane. It just depends where FPX is looking to spend their gold. Traditionally, it would be down to Lwx to try and get him fed, but with the GP actually being a little bit pushed in by this Cho'Gath, there's a good argument to be made that he should send it there. So Splyce is just doing their best to try and ward the river and just be around in case Galio tries to ult, because if Splyce turn it, then they can actually run away with either one of those lanes.
Yeah, and with the early Ocean down and Rift Herald not spawned yet, it's pretty much fair for both teams to kind of go a little bit quiet right now as we're waiting for either other big cooldowns or other big timers to actually force anyone's hand. Both teams, as Jatt is saying, are pretty confident to just continue to farm, so you should see the junglers either just shadowing underneath their pushed forward lanes to offer them some form of protection, and then waiting for things like the GP ultimate to be back and available.
Gimgoon does have flash. Xerxe is just standing by Chachi's side here. Chachi has the ultimate. Could look for a feast on that Gangplank, but Gimgoon's playing very safe.
And again, it's mostly protecting Chachi while he's this far forward. Obviously, if you find the rupture, you flash chomp someone, then yeah, you look for the kill, but Gimgoon should just let the wave push into him.
And this is more what FPX is used to doing, leaving Gimgoon on an island.
Flash away, but the flash chase is there. The chomp coming down. Gimgoon is down. First blood to Splyce.
Big play there. Nicely done by Splyce going flash for flash. It all leads off of Chachi's ability to land that rupture, though. It's what made it inescapable. FPX, though, looking to move fast. And I think Splyce has done their homework quite well. Humanoid was roamed down already to try and match.
Norskeren there waiting to use the battle dance so he can get away. As you say, Humanoid was on his way down here. They do know Tian is coming down towards the bottom lane, but early doors, Splyce have been able to match this aggression out of FunPlus Phoenix.
Yeah, and just as Jatt was just talking about the fact that Humanoid beat Doinb to the punch, was shadowing underneath him as Doinb was looking for the roam. That said, they still have priority over this mid lane, and Doinb is going to force these roams.
Yeah, and FPX is really trying to get bot side control, considering they have basically abandoned Gimgoon up on the top lane, but they haven't been able to do so, which is a fairly big and meaningful win for Splyce. Remember, Splyce did win the early game in the first matchup between these two, and they're looking to do it again.
Splyce have set up a trap here. Crisp and Tian now realize that Norskeren's on the way. Crisp flashes out, and the chase does not continue, but Splyce there understanding what FPX wanted to do.
I mean, it's pretty nuts that both teams seem to have a perfect read on what the other one wants to do, and it really is who's getting first to the punch, but you can very clearly see that everyone is putting so many resources and so much attention into tracking each other, trying to set trap upon trap.
And as we get just over the 10-minute mark, is about 1,000 gold lead here for Splyce. They have 10 CS lead in the bottom lane, about 20 in the mid lane, so their solo laners farming up very well. Although Xerxe was put behind, he's only 200 gold behind, where you see there's a 300 gold lead in the mid lane and almost 1,000 in top.
Yeah, and I think Humanoid and Vizicsacsi are having a very good day. The game one where Humanoid had such an influence on both side lanes and team fights with his Cassiopeia, again here, having to blind pick his Akali into whatever Doinb wanted to play against him. And sure, he hasn't gotten a kill, but he's kept enough pressure and followed closely enough that Galio hasn't been able to get any roams. And then you also have the farm advantage, which is credit to Humanoid.
And the nice thing about the itemization, since he is facing a Galio, is that Humanoid didn't have to kind of right-turn spec into the Seeker's Arm Guard. He's able to just immediately rush for that Gunblade, so he's going to get it that much earlier. And Gunblade, obviously the big power spike for Akali, because it gives her kill pressure over virtually anyone on the map.
Xerxe here has been spotted out once again. You talked about it, Frost. The ability to track the enemy jungler is paramount here. Now Xerxe's going to step in. He realizes Tian's there. Chachi's gone forward onto Gimgoon. The cannon barrage coming down. The silence will be used with that Froskurinn, but Chachi has to flash away. The chase still on here, perhaps for FPX if they want. They decide not to dive the tower.
The layering of CC from Splyce there to make sure that Xerxe hit the knock-up on Lee Sin and that Chachi found the silence was so crucial because Tian was looking for the angle to get the Dragon Rage kick and kick Cho'Gath away back towards Gimgoon. It saved Chachi's life.
Chachi did have to burn his flash though, so perhaps a repeat gank could come out. Tian is taking away the Rift Herald. It will be the second neutral objective for FPX in this early game.
And you can see, even though the CS is in the advantage of Humanoid, Doinb's using that to move around the map. They will get this Rift Herald, and it'll be a question of whether or not Splyce want to try and fight them in the river. Giving up mid priority for that Rift Herald could be relatively costly. If Doinb is actually going to recall, there's a chance he loses a good number more CS.
And so far, it feels like this game have been the junglers just making eye contact, tracking each other around, but it is Tian that is finding these slight advantages in terms of moving through the jungle, the early ocean, getting his hands on that Rift Herald. So small advantages that's not necessarily reflected in the gold lead, but that Herald could quickly come out and even things up for FPX.
Definitely could. We're starting to see first completed items across the board. Manamoon stacking up for Lwx. Protobelt is first on Doinb, as you would expect, and the Hextech Gunblade that you mentioned, Frosk, has now been completed for Humanoid. FPX are going to step into the jungle here, I don't think. Well, now they know about Norskeren.
I think FPX is really just hoping that Splyce try and come fight them, because that's what they would wait for. Even though GP Ultimate isn't up, that's kind of what they're daring Splyce to do here, and it is just a second Ocean Drake, so Splyce decide to keep up their lanes, and that's not too different from the way Splyce has been able to play early games the whole year. Yeah. I think even though Splyce is a slow team, they're not bad early game, they're just different than the other top LEC teams. They still generally have gold leads, but it's through laning, which is exactly what we're seeing here.
They like to neutralize their opponent and try to make them play their style. Now, something that is kind of out of the ordinary is how well Chachi is actually doing up into this top lane. So finding something quite valuable in this Cho versus GP matchup, as now the Herald goes down mid with Tian also behind it.
Used just a little bit late there. No plate's going to be taken by this, but they could still look for the tower. Humanoid jumping in onto Doinb. Tian there as well. Crispin Lwx coming up from the bottom lane. Rift Herald about to fall, but FPX do not want to go for the dive underneath the tower, and Splyce will hold on to that tower in mid.
Splyce doing a very good job playing defense on FPX so far. Once they start getting Essence Reaver onto Kobbe and having a level 11 Cho'Gath with Righteous Glory, they're also going to have a pretty strong team fight, so things going quite well first 15 minutes of this game for Splyce.
And it's such a... It's actually quite reminiscent of the first time these two teams met, but it's very different for Splyce. Just after they got demolished by J-Team, I think a lot of people have counted them out of this group, and now they've won their first game of today. They're pushing FPX back. They're about 1,500 gold ahead at the 15-minute mark.
Because it was about reflection on what were the errors that Splyce made to lose a lot of the faith, and it was execution-based errors. I felt like their game plan was quite clever every single time, but you had things like Norskeren diving towers or Humanoid overextending without any sort of safety, and that seems to be really cleaned up. Jatt, you said it. It just feels like Humanoid's having a much better day, and you just need one good day today.
It's great to have the good day on the day when you play 3 games.
Yes.
Way better than having a good day on one of the first week group stage games. But the weakness of Splyce has been the mid game, which is what's going to be put to the test here. They have a pretty good early game.
Yeah.
2,000 gold lead and first turret in exchange for 2 oceans, I'd say is still probably a slight advantage to Splyce, but it depends on how they play from here on out.
Definitely does, especially since FPX have this team fighting comp that can work for them as the game progresses. We talked about Tian as their bridge, where here comes the fight in the bottom lane. Grand entrance used, they're trying to take down Crisp. Here comes the hero's entrance, the hourglass has already been popped. Kobbe fighting down towards the bottom side, takes down Crisp, goes golden himself. Doinb is low, Tian is in the middle of it all. The jump in with the killer instinct, now Lwx is called out by Xerxe and Norskeren, and the fangs will sink in. No way out for Lwx, Xerxe takes the kill, and underneath the tower, Humanoid and Vizicsacsi take a double.
That is a huge win for Splyce. That's a 4-4-1 and now a 3-0 Cho'Gath, who's going to take a bite out of the turret as well.
And it was the numbers difference. It's the fact that it means more when it is Cho'Gath teleporting down to a fight than just the Gangplank ultimate. Gimgoon's still sitting on his TP. He'll be trading or attempting to trade back the tower, but doesn't necessarily have the minion wave behind him. Massive win for Splyce.
Accelerated them 4,000 gold in the lead. Chachi's not going to be able to take down the tower completely, but players like that from Splyce will be very encouraging for all their fans.
And it's important that Splyce were the ones to start this fight. So they basically take Crisp completely out of the fight and then also are able to kind of just withstand the Galio ultimate. Look how low Doinb is by the time he ults in. That was Humanoid chunking down most of his health, and after that happens, I mean, Chachi with Righteous Glory, we mentioned that power spike was going to be huge.
You can see, just as you say, it's Chachi being in the fight rather than just using a cannon barrage from the other side of the fight. And also, when you make Doinb use his ultimate early, you can then play around it rather than it being something you have to react to in the middle of a 5v5 fight.
But with all the gold that Chachi's now acquired, 3-0 on the Cho'Gath, he now not only has the completed Righteous Glory, but the Ninja Tabi as well as the Gargoyle Stoneplate. The front line is well and truly existent now for Splyce. And when a team is made entirely around playing Kobbe front to back, the fact that Chachi is already at this level is massive. Now they can play 1-4 and feel super safe if it turns into a big 5v5 as long as Chachi is there.
Because although Lwx on the Kaisa will have some tank shred, you don't usually see that as much from a Gangplank, and you definitely don't see that from a Galio in a side lane. So Lwx really the only one who'll be able to work his way through Chachi in any prolongated fights.
Yeah, and it's the fact that there's not a tank line set up here for FPX. You're basically just working on the natural tankiness of Galio at this point because he went Proto Belt, still doesn't have access to his Hourglass. So if it is just about hyper carries, I'm going to go with the Xayah that has line damage and slightly longer range and a bit more protection than the close range of Kaisa.
And how nice for Splyce that this is the Infernal Drake that spawns.
Yeah.
So the 2 oceans, as Splyce seeds Drake control, go to FPX. Now we have Gimgoon trying to shove out top lane as Splyce, who just proved they are much stronger in team fights, get river control and get pretty much an uncontestable Infernal.
19 minutes on the clock, the Infernal goes over to Splyce. They have a 4,000 gold lead or thereabouts. I do want to remind everyone, last time these two teams played, Splyce were in the advantage. Splyce were in the lead until they made a bad Baron call and FPX fought back because of it. It's not all done. FPX have shown us so many times that they can fight back from a deficit.
Why you gotta do me like that, Medic? Yeah, that is definitely still true that Splyce can still mess this up. But now it's about how do FPX kind of break this formation or this play that Splyce want to set up in terms of their strong 5v5 front to back, as well as playing Akali in a side lane, and it's using their mobility. It's using things like that Galio ultimate, like the Gangplank ultimate, to create unfair fights at this point in the map until they get some more itemization.
Yeah, and here's the gold graph from the last time they met. So yes, they have a 3,500 gold lead now. They had a 7.7k gold lead last time, about 7 more minutes into the game. So still lots of League of Legends to be played, but my eyes will consistently be going towards Chachi's Cho'Gath. Not only is he the strongest member on the team, he's the highest CS member of the team. He's had very good chomps so far. So the way Cho'Gath chomp works is you can get 6 minion eats and then you can't get any more, but you get an unlimited amount of champion or dragon eats. He's only consumed 2 of his champion, or 2 of his minion ones, and he's gotten 2 champions and a Drake. So he's going to be very, very big in the late game and is off to a spectacular start.
Yeah, and anytime Chachi has Flash, the threat that he can have on someone like Lwx, that just immediate burst damage, can force a Kaisa out of a fight. So we'll also be keeping track of that cooldown and see if Chachi is truly playing the super tank, or if maybe he's feeling lucky and he goes for the dive.
Wouldn't put it past him at all. Xerxe now in the bottom lane. It's the 1-3-1/1-2-1 that we have seen from Splyce in the past. Humanoid in a side lane, as you say. It looks like Gimgoon's going to be the one to try and deal with him. No one yet dealing with Xerxe, but as that wave pushes in, I'm sure FPX will send someone down towards that bottom lane.
It's most likely going to be Gimgoon, but he does also have to be careful. I mean, Vizicsacsi can just use Righteous Glory and run at him if he ever kind of sticks his head out too far.
So the play that Splyce want to achieve here is naturally pushing down this mid tower, and it's going to constantly be resetting. I'll hold it.
Chris lands the hook. Hero's entrance coming in. Xerxe already popped the gargoyle stone plate. Look at how healthy he is. He's going to flash away. Tian trying to get on Humanoid up towards the top side of the fight, but Splyce are able to disengage. The rupture lands on Gimgoon, but FPX able to hold on to that mid lane tower.
But Splyce got a lot of key cooldowns there. They got the Gangplank ultimate as well as the Galio ultimate. So they just need to kind of do the same maneuver, which is hard push one of their side lanes. You can see Humanoid doing it right now, or look for a re-engage.
Quickness comes out. You say they got him, he goes golden, but that stopwatch is not going to stop his death. Xerxe takes down Doinb. Tian is still looking for the flank here as Splyce will push for the mid lane tower, and they will get it.
And it's keeping the pressure up, knowing that those cooldowns aren't available.
This has been such a good start to the day for Splyce. They look clean against J-Team. They look cleaner against FPX, and they're going for more.
Tian lands the kick on Xerxe.
Or not.
I think Tian made Xerxe go for a little bit more there. He perhaps didn't want to.
Yeah.
Humanoid was pushing in the top lane, not with his team. It's a 3v3 in mid, but Splyce will be able to disengage.
Just looks so bizarre because he was like underground the entire time.
I'm like, it looks like Xerxe's diving. Nope, that was a Lee Sin kick. Yeah. He's dying.
The difference between diving and being delivered.
Yes, Splyce perhaps a little bit over eager to try and get that second tower in the mid lane. They chipped it down about a third of its health.
The ping goes down from Splyce on the top tower. Just the single blue ping, like, hey guys, I think we should have rotated here.
Yeah, maybe we should have got this one instead of opening us up to those Lee Sin flanks. 22 and a half minutes in. That gold lead is still sitting around the 3.5 to 4K mark for Splyce. They have an Infernal. There's another one up in a minute.
Taking another look at this one, we talked about how it was about the cooldown usage, but again, really nice CC layering. Xerxe catches Doinb there with the rupture, then silences him. They make sure that the Galio can't get away from them, take him down, but just a bit over-eager here.
Yeah, nice kick by Tian to kind of save the play, but the beginning of that was Xerxe hiding around Fog of War to land that rupture, and I think not only from the laning phase he's had, but from the mid-game, it feels like FPX isn't really used to playing against the Cho'Gath, the corridors you have to worry about to get hit by those ruptures from Fog of War, and now with 30 seconds remaining on the second Infernal spawn, there is an inherent pressure for FPX to try and contest this, but I think if they do try and contest it and they lose a fight, the game would basically be over because we're at a point where Splyce could win a fight and then go for Baron.
Well, Infernal up in 20 seconds. Splyce gain control of the river. FPX. Lwx is at 2 items now. He's building up towards the Nash's Tooth. He's very strong. You have the Zhonya's complete on Doinb, and you can see FPX are pulling Splyce up towards this Baron.
They're trading Baron pressure and threat for Infernal Drake, so it's a way they can get control of an area.
But now they need to make sure that they hit their CC, because you know Splyce are going to check for this.
So Norskeren has the quickness, could look for the engage. Crisp is on the front line, misses the dredge line. Humanoid still down towards that bottom lane, pushing in. Cannon Barrage comes out. FPX not going to be able to push forward, and the Baron has reset. Doinb actually knocked up there by the Baron, so FPX are going to turn back towards it. Gimgoon's gone away, but Splyce now looking for the fight. Humanoid waiting, seeing if he can TP in. Gimgoon's on the back of this, but FPX once again disengaged, step away, and Splyce have got the tower and are continuing to push in bot lane.
And Splyce are just playing with their food right now. They made FPX make a very tough decision. Are you going to sit on the Baron, or are you going to contest Humanoid? And they just got away with murder. They got massive cooldowns. They now force FPX off the Baron and got the tower.
Yeah, FPX is getting schooled. I think what they were trying to go for was, hey, Splyce is going to think we're just going for Baron Vision, so they'll hold 1 or 2 people back to kill the Infernal Drake, and then we'll be able to force. That's not what Splyce did at all. Splyce played this very smartly. They knew they could always come back to the Infernal Drake later, and they also knew that with no Mountain Drakes and a Galio mid, the Baron wasn't going to be very fast. So they slowly and safely made sure Splyce couldn't do Baron, while also getting the the second tier bot turret and Infernal number 2.
And I want to remind everyone how important this game is for both these teams. If FPX win this, they are locked in quarterfinals. Not locked in first, they might have to play a tiebreaker for that second game, but they would be guaranteed a spot in quarterfinals. If Splyce win, they are guaranteed a tiebreaker at least to fight for that second spot.
I will say at this point in the map now, things are starting to shift a little bit back towards FPX, and that they're going to feel more confident looking for 5v5s. They got the key itemization that they wanted on Kaisa, as well as now their Hourglass and Proto Belt completed for Doinb there. So if they get the perfect fight, if they find the Wombo combo, they certainly have the tools to really make it stick.
I don't think Splyce have realized there's a control ward spotting them out. Just in that curved bush in the river. They really need to clear that one out at the moment. Xerxe is just staying around it, now walks over it, but it wasn't spotted out. Kobbe, depth charge lands. Norskeren hooked up, trying to get away, but Tian is there. Tian though goes golden underneath the tower. Chris going low, tanks up a tower shot. Tian able to flash away. Kobbe has a lot of damage, but not enough to get the kill today. FPX will get a kill and get out.
Yeah, good job by FPX to get a little bit of gold back, but you can see even just that engage took many of them low, and it meant that Humanoid was just going to be able to free farm in this side lane. Look at that now, 280 CS, well above the average of the game, and yet another solo turret goes over to that Akali.
And frankly, Splyce are playing the map better than FPX, as Gimgoon now caught out.
Knockup didn't land there, so Gimgoon is just able to flash away. You feel like the CC chain would have been too much if the Rek'Sai Unburrow had connected.
Yeah, and just thinking about this game overall, double Infernal to double Ocean with a 5,000 gold lead, you turn nameplates off, you don't know what happened in the first game, this is just basically over, right? Splyce would have such a huge lead, but they need to be able to show the ability to cleanly take a Baron like this. They have so much sidewave pressure. They are stronger in properly set up 5v5 fights, so all they need to do is find a way to get FPX together and TP in behind him. That's where Splyce can win this game.
And this is where every Splyce fan just holds their breath. You can see it in the inventory. They know Jatt. They've got all of the control wards. It's about getting priority, but someone's caught out.
Xerxe kicked out. Hero's entrance coming down, but Norskeren's on the way with the quickness. Gargoyle Stoneplate has been used.
So tanky.
Going low. He's already almost fallen here. And doesn't matter how tanky you are, because he has been shut down. Now Splyce all grouped up. Humanoid jumping onto the back line. Chris almost goes down. Doinb on the front line. He will fall first. There's another kill, but it's Humanoid who's fallen. 2 for 2 so far. Xerxe and Kobbe still on the chase. Gimgoon trying to get away. Xerxe! Roar, he says! 6 in the fangs! Takes the double kill! And Splyce clean up FPX!
But how bold is Splyce going to be with this? Is this just about clearing out the vision? They have Xerxe. They have Kobbe. Will they pull the trigger?
They definitely should. It's just Crisp alive, and Kobbe with 3 items can shred this Baron. That Baron's going to be going to Splyce. Let's watch how it worked. And yes, FPX did catch Chachi, but he has 8,000 health after he procs that Gargoyle Stone's Plate. So the time bought lets Humanoid full channel his teleport and wreak some havoc on the back line.
It's the perfect champion for Chachi, a guy who has some of the highest isolated deaths in the domestic season for LEC. If you catch him out in rotation, which is going to happen, he doesn't instantly die. They have now band-aided with this pick of the Cho'Gath to mean that FPX invested so much time in trying to kill him that the rest of Splyce destroyed the fight.
It's the power of that front to back you were talking about. Chachi can tank up for so long. Kobbe just has a lot of free time to stand away from the fight and slowly work his way through FPX.
That's if they set up the fight.
Sure, it still worked, Frosk, okay? We give them those. We take those, okay? As our North
Jatt,
American brethren would say.
I mean, you can set it up by getting caught. That's a thing.
100% true. Rup just going to land here onto Crisp. Kobbe is up towards the top side of this fight. Puts down some feathers. They're looking to push in this mid lane tower. It's still alive, but the Baron buff is helping Splyce quite a lot. Humanoid's down in the bottom lane. Doinb going in. Feather Storm used, flash away from Kobbe, and Doinb is in no shape to survive. Another kill comes down.
This could be game.
Chachi eats up with the feast. Tian tries to jump in. He'll take down Kobbe, but Lwx is low. He's fallen, and Humanoid has yet to join the fight. Tian trying to get away. Lwx and Norskeren on the chase. The knock-up, the double. Splyce once again win the fight.
These are long death timers, and minion waves are in position. It is just one GP trying to defend the turret. At most, this is FPX losing 2 inhibitors.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
Rather.
It's the fact that the waves are both there, so even though the Gangplank ultimate comes down, he can only save 1. Xerxe has prepared this earlier up onto the top side. There's 2.
This could be over.
It could be over. Mid lane inhib is going to fall. Top lane will follow shortly after. I feel like Splyce will accept this for now. Further in the lead than they were last time by 1,000 gold. Maybe that's enough for Splyce to close out this game in the end. Mid and top inhibs are down.
I think Splyce saw it as a safe play to take 2 inhibitors there, but let's watch this fight one more time. Doinb thought he could get Kobbe, but Kobbe had the reaction time and the flash cooldown to completely turn that around. That's another one of those reasons the first pick Xayah can be so valuable. And then as the fight continues, yes, Lwx gets yet another shutdown. So he's actually gotten 3 shutdowns now and is a 13,000 gold Kaisa, which would be like the one way FPX could still win this game. But after Splyce win that fight with Baron taking 2 inhibs, it's a fight away.
The fight was a 4v5 for all of it, as well as Humanoid had been pushing in the bot lane. Now, still a minute left on this Baron power play. 3 players from Splyce are down towards the bottom lane. Xerxe and Humanoid are going to keep this mid lane pushed up, try and crash those waves at the same time.
Yeah, because when you have 2 inhibs there, it's just about 5-man stacking in the last lane that has the remaining inhib. And like you're saying, trying to time the wave, so FPX have to pick between the super minions and the charging Splyce, still trying to squeeze something out of this Baron.
Final inhib tower down to half HP. Splyce still pushing in. Kobbe trying to get the damage down. Gimgoon takes a little bit of a chip, but not too much. Xerxe still in the middle lane. Humanoid in between the two, looking for an engage perhaps.
So FPX now need to make the decision, because they probably won't survive these charges. You can either say, okay, maybe Splyce won't try to end the game here. We live to fight another day. Just hold the line. Or you find your single window to go in.
Norskeren goes in. The charm connects, and one is already down. Norskeren forces as well. The hero's entrance now from FPX. Last chance saloon. Last defense perhaps. 2 for 1 in favor of FPX so far. Xerxe actually coming back out of the GA, but he will fall. Kobbe forced away. Chachi forced away as well. FPX still very healthy. Chris gets rooted up with the Blade Caller, but it's not quite enough. Lwx now pushing forward. Doinb trying to jump onto the backline, but the Feather Storm still comes out. Kobbe manages to land the root. Can he take down Lwx? Not quite, but Lwx will fall. Humanoid goes golden on the backline, looking for the re-engage. Can't quite find it. Doinb is so low. The Rupture connects, and here is the chase. Double kill for Chachi, and now Splyce are focused on the base. The Nexus Tower is their target, but instead they'll go for Chris.
Splyce have so many minions coming through, and it's just Gimgoon, and Chachi is just an assassin with these ruptures.
Humanoid takes the kill. Chachi landing rupture after rupture. Gimgoon steps into it, uses the oranges, goes gold, and Chachi maybe gonna fall here as Tian can chase him out. Chachi's still able to flash away. Lands the rupture. Humanoid surviving. Humanoid goes back in, trying to take down Tian, but he can't quite get the damage out. Doesn't have the perfect execution.
They want to end. Chachi can teleport back in.
He can, but the respawns are coming up. 5 seconds on Lwx. I think Splyce should go from this one. You don't need to. You've got 2 minutes on top and mid inhib. Do not force it too hard, because they have fallen from such a great position last time they played FPX.
Yeah, you can feel some of the flashbacks coming over Splyce. 1 minute and 20 onto the Baron. They wouldn't necessarily need it to end, but maybe they play it too cautious. But I really want to zoom in on Chachi here. 7, 1, and 5. From 0 to hero, he has really stood tall today on this Cho pick.
Yeah, he probably landed about 7 ruptures in a row in the course of that fight. He's sitting at 10 feast stacks on level 16 Cho. 5,500 health before proccing the stone plate. And after Lwx dive bombed in to kill Kobbe, if Chachi doesn't land another rupture and kill him there, that's a repelled push by FPX. Now they have the triple supers going in, and they're looking to walk this one in with their beefy boy Cho'Gath and take the win.
It was 1,696 days from the first time Chachi played on the stage to when he first qualified for Worlds. Here, he stepped up. He has been the main man for this game. He lands the 3-man rupture, and now the push comes in. Norskeren with the double charm, Doinb on the front line, but Kobbe opening up. Tian's going to kick him away, but already that's a shutdown on Lwx, and you have to feel the Nexus should be the target. Splyce have done it. 2-0 on the day. They locked themselves a tiebreaker at least for quarterfinals.
And they also still have a chance of winning the group outright, which when you saw this group draw and saw FPX sitting in this group, you did not think it was possible. But Splyce and Week 2 Europe make it happen.
And all we asked is that it had to be someone else other than Kobbe. You knew that the 80 carat of Splyce was going to be your consistent man. You knew that Xerxe was a genius in the jungle. It had to be Humanoid. It had to be Norskeren. It had to be Chachi. And they did it.
The crowd behind them for the entire game. What a performance it was by Splyce. FPX, of course, still have their chance to make sure that they get into the quarterfinals. They play up against J-Team late.